Welcome to Voice Bootcamp, a global name in unified communication. Hello, my name is Faisal Khan, CEO and founder of voicebootcamp.com. In this self-study kit of deploying Cisco Unified Contact Center Enterprise with CVP 11.5, we're going to show you how to prepare the instance for UCCE deployment. Whenever you deploy an UCCE solutions, you must configure or use an instance to kind of create a profile for a particular call center deployment. Now again, instance does not necessarily have to be just one for one particular company, but you could have multiple instances. For example, referring to different call center, you might have a sales call center, you might have engineering call centers or whatnot. So instance kind of represent a particular profile or a call center for a company. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to verify that my Active Directory is working, and then I want to verify if my Roger or the UCCE servers are able to communicate with the Active Directory. So this is my topology. So in this topology, what I have, Roger A and Roger B, which will be member of an Active Directory domain. It has to be a member. So all the UCCE component or all the servers that are going to have UCCE component must be a member of an Active Directory, and it must have access to the admin privilege that allows you to modify the Active Directory schema. So what I want to do is right now is log into my Active Directory server. As you can see, this is my Active Directory. I want to log in as administrator. Make sure you have a necessary privilege. So this is my domain, and what I want to do is make sure I can access my Active Directory's users and computers, and this is my particular domain name that I'm going to use, Voice Bootcamp. Now once you have that, let's go ahead and log into Roger for now. We're going to start with one, and then of course we'll continue with each server individually. Okay, so first thing first, I want to go to command prompt and type the command who am I, and that tells me that I am Voice Bootcamp / administrator. And so that is an indication that I am part of the domain member or part of the Active Directory domain. The alternative way of finding that information is by going to the server manager. You want to click on local server, and what you want to look for is the domain name, computer name, Rogers workgroup voicebootcamp.com. So that's an indication that you are a member of a domain. Now, just because you're a member of a domain, it does not help. You have to be logged in to a user account that has an admin privilege. So first thing I want to do, when you have this wizard or kind of like a dashboard or whatever you want to call it, this kind of walks you through what needs to be done on each server. Okay, got logged out. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is run the domain manager. The domain manager must be run at least for the first time. It does not have to be done more than once. So what domain manager does, it allows you to create a container within the Active Directory which hosts or rather contain all your UCC related configurations. So along with some registries informations. So what you want to do is you can select the domain from select domain, or by default it should be voicebootcamp.com based on the membership. If you click on Cisco, add Cisco route, there's only one Cisco route that you can add, and it will be called Cisco _ICM. Now at the same time, if you go to your Active Directory, My hands are really tired of typing the entire day, so password doesn't take it sometime. All right, so if I do a refresh, and I should see Cisco ICM right there. Now you only need to do this once. You don't necessarily have to do it for every servers because all servers are actually pointing to the same Active Directory. Now what by default it contains is two group membership, which gives you a privilege to a certain level. So for example, if you want to provide a user named Bob, the ability to set up UCCE but not configure it, then you want to assign Bob user account underneath this particular group called ICM setup. You can just simply add the user accounts there. If you want someone to do day-to-day configurations, then you want to put them under this group. Going back to the Roger, right now you see these two groups, and you can assign them different members from your admin list. You can go to an ad, and you can search a username from the list. Now, under ICM, what I'm going to do is add a facility. Think about facility is like a kind of a division, a West Coast versus East Coast, or North America versus Europe. So these are facilities, and each facility, underneath that in each facility, you can contain instances. So I'm going to create a facility called West Coast. So all the company or call centers in the West Coast will belong underneath the West Coast facility. Now, again, under West Coast, I can give different privileges. So anything that any permission that you apply under ICM root will be automatically inherited by all the facilities below it. But anything that you apply under West Coast facility, like config or setup, it will not be affected. It will go kind of like a downstream, will not apply anything above its level. So under West Coast, I'm going to create an instance. So let's say in West Coast you have two companies. Let's say Bank of America and Voice Bootcamp. For each, you want to host a separate call center. So you want to create an instance. So I will create an instance called Voice Bootcamp. Now, of course, the instance has to be only 5-digit character. So you can call it VBC, Voice Bootcamp 01. So that's an indication that Voice Bootcamp call center 1. So now, again, if I want to assign Joe with the permission to modify only Voice Bootcamp, then I will assign him under config and setup. All right, so this is how you organize a instance. So we're going to go ahead and close this. The next thing what we're going to do is use the web setup to assign the instance. So you're going to log in as administrator. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add an instance. So you have a choice, So for example, I can click on add instance here. I can go to instance management depending on which option you want to take. Now again, a server can point to multiple instances. That's perfectly fine. So you can run on the same physical virtual machine. You can run two different companies if you want to, and each instance will have its own router, logger, and all sorts of information. So let's say, go ahead, I'm going to add an instance, and it's going to pick up the instance from the domain manager. So see the West Coast and Voice Bootcamp and instance number. So every instance that you create must have a unique instance number. Obviously the first one will start with 0, but then it's up to you. You can change it to something else if you wish to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and save. Okay, so this web setup now belong to this instance. Now from this point onward, I can start creating my router, logger, admin, PG, and all that stuff. Now, I'm not going to do any those stuff at this particular chapter, but I'm going to go ahead and continue adding instance for the remaining servers. Every server that has UCCE component running, they must belong to an instance. Now, if you have two physical virtual machine and you want those two virtual machine to serve one particular company, both virtual machine must have instance set up, and they must be the same. Okay, so I'm not sure why I cannot log in there. Okay, it's coming slowly. Now, from the Rogger B, I no longer have to create the domain manager or the instance because it's already done from the Rogger. All I have to do is go to UCCE setup, the web setup, and assign the instance to this particular server as well. So both of these Rogger A and Rogger B server part of the Voice Bootcamp instance. Or will be, at least. Okay, this server seems to be a little bit slow. We have about 25 virtual machines running in each pod, managing our UCCE pod for our students. So sometimes it can take a little time for the servers to respond. All right, so I am logging into the web setup in order to define the instance Voice Bootcamp to this server as well. All right, so let's go ahead and add an instance, add new, and okay, for some reason, let me check to see this page. It should have picked up from the server. Let's run the domain manager to see if there is any problem. Okay, so under the UCC tools, you can open the domain manager. Okay, so it's something wrong. It's an error validating Active Directory environment. Okay, so what we need to do, type cmd. Let's find out what am I logged in as. So who am I? Well, that's Voice Bootcamp. Looks fine. So I am logged into the domain. So, but for some reason, I don't have a privilege to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove myself from the domain and add myself back in. So go to work group. Okay, so I don't have to restart. I can just simply go ahead and change it back to domain. Okay, so it's telling me, okay, that is, okay, I know the problem now. It's most likely DNS issue. Yep, it was a DNS issue. Well, I didn't have to actually remove it, but that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly reboot the server, and then we will try this again. Okay, so I'm logging back in. We'll try again. This time this seems a little bit faster. So it probably was slow because it was trying to contact the domain and it couldn't. Okay, so it did picked up, as you can see. No permission issue, so that's the one troubleshooting that we learned today. Make sure DNS server is correctly set. All right, so this is done for my Rogger. So now I'm going to log into PG and do exactly the same thing. But this time I'm going to validate that my DNS is pointing to the right IP address. Okay, so let's verify that. Okay, .50, so this looks good. Now, having all these server assigned to the same instance, although we call the server PG or Rogger at this stage, but their functionality still remain the same. They're all basically base server. Their role have not been defined yet. So the next subsequent lab, we will start configuring the role for each servers manually. All right, so I'm done with the PGA. Now let's go to PGB. Okay, so that portion is done. Now we will log into admin server A and admin server B. So again, same task, make sure that it belongs to the same instance, otherwise they will not be part of the same cluster. Although it's not considered to be cluster concept here, but the concept remains the same. All right, so I have add admin, the last server to go, which is B. Okay, so this is login as local, so I'm going to change it to domain account. All right, so all of our UCCE component servers are enabled with the proper instance. So this is one of the first steps that you need to do in order to deploy UCCE solution. So that's pretty much it for this particular lab. I will see you in